right.
Brooke is there. Awesome. So give me.
There we go.
I'm doing logging on to Facebook. So everybody hold tight. Hopefully everybody is doing this well today.
There's MG as well. That's lovely. Hi, MG.
Popping on our first August huddle here.
Yeah,
Hard to believe August already.
Unbelievable, Josh.
Yeah,
And it
I know.
feels like August in Georgia for sure. It is. And humid.
Except no football coming soon.
Yeah.
You don't think?
Well, we'll see, right?
We'll see, yeah.
We'll see if we have football.
Hey, MG.
Hey. Hi, there's Lance. There's Jennifer, Julie Seitz, Delta, and then John Stewart. Look at that shirt. The last few weeks I haven't been able to say anything, but if you've been noticed, John's been on the road again in his RV.
All right.
I'm so jealous, John. I want that truck so bad.
Get in the road.
Get in the road. Okay, well, Josh, why don't you kick us off?
Good. All right, guys. Well, welcome back. It's our first huddle in August here, so glad you're joining us, those that are new and those that have been here the past, well, I guess since April, May, maybe, we've been doing the huddle. So thanks, everybody, for joining. We have a great guest speaker today, Maggie, who we're very excited to speak with. She's going to share a lot about her very interesting career. And before we get started on that, just wanted to cover a few of the housekeeping things, as always. There will likely be some very good questions that pop up from you guys today. So please throw them in the Zoom chat if you're on Zoom today, and we'll be able to ask Maggie at any point during her discussion. So please put that down. If you are looking for a rebroadcast of today or past episodes, please look on the Facebook page, Intrepid Spirits Facebook page, where you can see all of the past episodes and also touch base with everybody on the call, either today or that has been in the last few months. So it's a great way to reconnect, network, say hello to a lot of friends that you may have not seen in a while. So with that said, I want to turn it over to Dill and Susan for a little opening before we get to Maggie. Dill, how are you?
Hey, howdy. The sea is dangerous and the storms are terrible, but these have never been sufficient reasons to remain ashore. Unlike timid souls, intrepid spirits seek victory over those things that seem impossible. It is with an iron will that they embark on the most daring of all adventures, to meet the shadowy future without fear and conquer the unknown. Hell yeah, baby. That's what's going on right now in this world. There's a lot of unknown, uncertain things. The kickoff thought starter today is, as we're digging through this pandemic, 4 words kept coming to my mind, and I think many of you on the call or will see this later will know that I used to sign my emails off, stay low, keep moving. And it dawned on me, like, I was told that came from a first lieutenant in the Vietnam War when, he called back to his commander and, they'd taken the same ground like, 12 times. You sort of got pissed off. He's like, hey, stay low, keep moving. And sometimes it feels like that now as we, charge forward and we feel like we're just kind of breaking through and then we're going back a little bit. So I would just say those 4 words, stay low, keep moving, and know that we're going to get there. Come hell or high water, we're going to get there. So with that said, sunshine.
Great. Well, thanks. Well, I'm so excited to have Maggie with us today. I've gotten to know her probably about 2 years now, and a good friend of mine, Maddie Hamill, introduced us. And Maddie is from Ireland, and Maggie is from Scotland. So every Monday, I get to have a real refreshing time with the 3 of us. In fact, my file on my computer is called The 3 Women for any of the stuff that we're working on. But Maggie is one of those that stays low and keeps moving, and watching her through the pandemic with the film industry has been quite amazing to see how she has stayed the course and looked and worked around. She actually produced a show called The Little Room, where it was all done virtual, and the actors were at their homes and they did their own makeup and they were on Zoom or whatever. And it really ended up being quite a nice episode and show that maybe we'll get to go even further. So talking to some really cool people about that. But also coming up, how I met her was looking at the film industry in Georgia and how to take Maggie's passion for young people and spreading and coaching and teaching, and to take that to the film industry in Georgia. There's a lot of activity, a lot of great activity going on in Georgia in the film industry, but unfortunately there's still a lot of it that leaves and goes back to California or to elsewhere. And so one of her passions, and maybe she'll talk a little bit about it, is how to help go deep and make sure all the levels in the industry are getting people trained really well in Georgia so that we can make sure that our industry stays strong. You're doing that. But if any of you have seen Searching for Sugarman, if you haven't, I recommend you watch it. It was a wonderful documentary that Maggie actually won an Oscar for Best Documentary. And she's worked for almost every studio, almost every film you can imagine. But more impressive is she's actually produced 35 independent films. And her goal is, I'm going to make sure my investors at least are made whole, but hopefully make some money and have some fun along the way, because it is about having fun with the people you work with. So she's very committed to making great films, but doing it in a very economic and budget efficient way. So with all that, Maggie is going to talk to us a little bit about the gig economy, because in the film industry, you know, there is a lot of gig opportunities and jobs, and how's the pandemic going to affect that? So Maggie, it's yours.
Thank you so very much. That was a lovely introduction. I'm blushing. No, I'm not really. I'm not like that. So basically, the reason I thought about this is not just because the film production part of the whole film process is in and of itself a gig economy and always has been, whereas the marketing teams and the distribution teams are usually salaried staff at the studios and the companies, the independent companies around the world. The people who actually make the films are almost universally part of a gig economy. And the reason I thought it was important as something to talk about today, because I think it goes more broadly beyond the film industry nowadays, and especially after this pandemic, that so many companies are changing the way they're organizing their operations. People have had a chance to sit and think about, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? And young people are entering a workforce which is nothing like they were told to expect to come into, and so on and so on. And so I thought it was kind of interesting to look at it from the film point of view and figure out, if I was doing that now, what would I want someone to tell me? So forgive me if I'm teaching Granny to suck eggs with any of you. I don't mean to do that, but for any younger people watching, or people like myself, you know, I didn't become a film producer until I was 50. And so I entered the gig economy, and I'm very fortunate. I have parents who set a fantastic example, which is, if you don't like what you're doing, do something else. And so this is why in my career, you know, I've worked as an academic, I've been a political lobbyist, I've run a charity, I've worked in advertising, and so on and so on. And finally finishing up as a film producer as part of my film industry thing. But most of all, I think, you know, what people need to understand is that, and this is the hardest thing of all in the gig economy, you always are thinking about the next thing. Am I going to have the next one? And I would say to everyone, you have to stop thinking about the next one and be present in the one you're working on at that point in time, most of the time. I think that's something that I didn't realize early on, and I wasted a lot of time and did many extra hours that I could have been happily surfing or walking up and down the beach or something in Southern California, where I lived at the time, by trying to explore every possible opportunity instead of focusing on the one I was engaged in at that point in time. And I think that's really important. It's important because what I've discovered is that the gig you're working on at that point is where you're going to find the seeds of your next one. Not just because you are, learning as you go and hearing about different opportunities from the people, but you're beginning to build your coterie of people and friends that will be part of your gig economy life forever. I think the thing that I've had to learn is that it's not about finding new gigs whenever I'm in any one gig. It's about learning new skills. And that's interesting, that Susan brought up Little Room, because that was an absolute case in point. I have to admit that I put it together in a fit of complete huff and pique at the world. We were supposed to be shooting 2 films this summer here in Georgia, and Susan and Maddie and I were beyond excited about it. And it became very obvious at the beginning of March that that was not going to happen. And when the insurance went out the window in the middle of April, went out for a big long walk up here in North Georgia and came up with the idea about a bunch of agoraphobics whose therapist goes missing and they have to try and figure out where she is and what's going on. And it was only because I had obeyed like the first few rules that I've just spoken about and being present in other people's projects that I realized in picking up the phone, not one single person turned me down. And in actual fact, once word went out that I was doing it, I was quite inundated with people saying, if there's anything for me to be involved in this, please let me join in. And we did it to raise money for the hardship funds, because that's the downside of the gig economy. When it goes, and you're left with absolutely nothing. And so we felt it was incumbent upon us, those of us who had a slight cushion and the ability to do something decent, to try and do that. And it's worked extremely well. Without revealing with whom, it's still in consideration at 4 major places, and we're very excited. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, because what happened was I learned whole bunches of things that I could not have learned on a physical film set. And it took us to a new place where exactly what Susan spoke about earlier on, our plans, we realized that so much of film production, TV production can be virtual. And that meant that we found a way, and we've actually trialed a way now, of involving people who, for whatever reason, are not able to work away from home, to be away for those crazy 12-hour production days. And we've discovered there's absolutely no need whatsoever for many of my production team in the producers unit, like the production accountants, for example, the unit production managers, the location managers, all those kinds of people. All those jobs can be done virtually, because in Little Room, we did it with the costume department and the production design department working on Zoom with our actors, helping shape their homes to make them look like a different place altogether and a different set. So I think that is important, and it shows that networking nicely, people always talk about, but she's a really good networker. When somebody says she's a really good networker, that's the last person I ever want to meet, because she's going to be a damn nuisance. You know it. But by networking nicely, it's about making sure, and I learned this in my lobbying days and in my new business days in advertising, I actually diarize, reaching out to someone. I don't reach out and say, have you got any work going on, or can you help me with this or that? You reach out and say, I found this photograph of you and I this time 4 years ago. Wasn't that hilarious? Hope you're doing well. And I think in the gig economy, moving from where I had been beforehand in a huge corporation, I've been working with Lucasfilm, managing the distribution of episode 2 of Star Wars worldwide, all the marketing, distribution, promotions, licensing, all that good stuff. And traveling everywhere, that I kind of forgot to be in touch with people. And in the gig economy, that's something that you absolutely have to be in touch with everyone. I think that you have to understand you are your own boss. So I think a lot of times you have to give yourself a right good talking to when you're in the gig economy. because you'll know for sure, you know, when you're, you know, not pulling your weight, shall we say, and when you're overdoing it as well. And I think that's a really important thing that coming out of the corporate world for people like myself, aged 50, you know, had all this structure in their life of there's this meeting on a Monday morning, and on a Tuesday afternoon, there's this meeting, on a Thursday, you've got to submit your report on such and such, and there's the conference call about this and the whatever. You know, there's this big convention that you go to every year, that once that structure is taken away from you, being your own boss is also about being kind of self-critical. I think in the gig economy, that's going to really help you. The biggest lesson I think I've had to learn is only to live the lifestyle that I can afford as a gig worker. Yeah, and you know, after years on salary and you know, getting my body weight and bonuses, you know, which is substantial, you know, that it's a really weird thing to realize that you know you're going to have to make your money last. But in something like what's happened just now, you know, with COVID-19, that's been the absolute blessing, you know. And you know, someone, an early boss of mine who had just, they were setting up their own company, the first ever ad agency I worked in, Cowan Kemsley Taylor, and she said that she operated by laws of thirds, which was you had to live on a third of what you were earning, put aside a third of it for the future, and spend a third of it in making sure that future happened. And I think that's part of being, you know, a really good boss to yourself, is that you want to invest in yourself. So as a film producer, what I tend to do is spend a lot of money buying up options on books, getting writers to write things. And nowadays, I'm glad to say, Brooke is one of them, she's here with us today, finding the ability to bring new young people along with me. And for my final thing, what I wanted to say is that in the gig economy, always help the person coming behind you. Because what I've found, even in the course of this 10 years, and beyond that, and throughout in the film industry, most of my interns that worked with me in London at Columbia TriStar, here in America at Columbia TriStar, and at Lucasfilm are running companies now. They've way surpassed anything I've ever done in terms of, you know, the corporate hierarchy. And the people I'm meeting and the people I'm pitching to just now for trying to get TV shows away and find a home for the films ultimately and so forth, they tend to be quite a bit younger than me. That's why the phone's a great thing, isn't it? They can't see your wrinkles. But basically, the great thing about that is that if you remember that they probably need your help and your encouragement, as well as you wanting something from them, that is a really important way of always having a welcome at whoever's door you go to. And most of all, I would just say enjoy it, because the freedom and liberation of knowing every morning that you're the captain of your own ship, you know, and that, you know, whatever direction you want to go in is one where you've decided it, for good or for bad. You know, I'd say it's probably the most enjoyable thing I've ever done in my life. And I've made a point of enjoying my life. So that's saying something. So, I mean, those are my key points. And I think the gig economy is here to stay. I read in the Financial Times that presenteeism is dead. Oh, I so hope that is true. All those dead hours, you know, being at your desk for no reason whatsoever, other than to show some crazy ass boss that, you know, you had the commitment to a company that you could give something or other about. See, I'm tidying up my language even for you, Susie. But, you know, that's the key thing about the gig economy, is that, you know, if you don't like the people you're working with, you can walk away. And if you love the people you're working with, you can make sure you'll work with them again and again and again. So I've made my very basic points. I hope that was somewhat reasonable.
No, super. So Josh, I don't know if I can't see on Facebook, so I don't know if we've gotten any questions there or not, but Josh, while you're looking, Maggie, I know, we're in the process, you had hoped to be, her new company is called Southern Stories, because there's so many great stories in the South. And we were hoping to be filming in March, and then we were hoping to film, but maybe there'll be some filming in the next several months. What would you like to share with the team about this experience of trying to film in the COVID world?
Well, as I say, you can look at things as, a terrible obstacle, or you can look at it as an opportunity to see things in a different way. And I think because of my upbringing and because of, the fact that I think I come from the planet Zog rather than anywhere on Earth, I think that what it's taught me is that there's always a way around a problem. And in solving the problem, you probably solve more problems than you thought you would. Having said that, keeping people safe is the thing that is most concerning for every filmmaker and people working in television just now, because the last thing you want is for people to fall ill, particularly with something like coronavirus, which can be so deadly and dangerous, to everyone involved, and it runs through everything so quickly. So what is brilliant about this, though, is it's led to us streamlining the way our productions are organized, and they will be like that forevermore. Because we came at it from the point of view of doing little room to try and raise money, which we have done. And then in organizing the production for the end of this year, which we hope this dreadful spike that America can't get its hand around, it's appalling. As long as that doesn't capsize us once again, the big idea is that we'll be able to do back-to-back films using the same crew across all films, which means that our crew are going to hit their numbers for their health and pensions benefits from the union. And that means that 2021 isn't going to be a whole lot of pain for them trying to figure out how to get medical cover for themselves and their families. And although that's just a small microcosm, we figure that if we do it right, then we can become a plan, an outline of how lots of other people can do it. And basically what we've done is we've set up Southern Stories Film Camp, where we're all going to lock down together, hopefully not kill each other by the end of it. But we're going to lock down together. We're going to work as a complete team, much more streamlined, fewer people, but people with more experience. And at one end of the crew, and people with very little experience at the other end, to make sure that we are pulling through everything we want in terms of training. And we're going to be trialing all the things, Susan, that you and Maddie and I have talked about how to, get people to understand what being a good production worker actually means in reality. Because there is no formal training in the independent film world. As I always so famously say, if any of you would like to be producers, we can start now. If you repeat after me, I am a producer. There you go. You're all qualified. It's so easy just to set out your shingle and say that's what you're doing, because that's what I did. And I thought because of all my experience in distribution, marketing and so forth, that I knew what I was doing. I couldn't have been more wrong. But fortunately with every project, I made new mistakes every time. I never repeated any of them. So that was good. But I think the thing is that, we need to figure out a way of giving people a pathway of professionalism, and to try and insert some certainty that if you work really hard, that you're going to keep getting hired over and over and over again, and build our Southern Stories family. Hopefully 3 deep crew. That's our plan for the 3-year plan.
Yeah. And so for any of you that young or old, like you heard Maggie, she started this path, even though she was from the industry, are interested in being apprentices. It may not happen this year, but it may, because, we're in the process of pulling in the teams right now. So if you know of any people, definitely reach out to myself or Maggie, and I can get you connected to Maggie. And another interesting thing, Maggie, you're doing is a lot of times when people think about investing in film, they invest in one movie, right? But you're approaching that from a different way.
Yeah, well, again, it's just something I've learned, that I realised that in the last 10 years, I've made 35 films, 35 independent features, from very low budget first features through to $15 million movies. And I realised that I was treating everyone as a new bus coming along, which it is in every respect, you know. That's the weird thing about film and television production. You stand this factory up, and at the end of it, you stand the factory down, you know, which is no business model for anyone whatsoever. And what I realised about halfway in was that if I brought people in across multiple films, that increased their chances of making their money back, and hopefully with a wee bit more. And I've been very fortunate in that, you know, we've been able to make multiple films over and over again. So reinvest the money in new different films over and over again. That's how I got to so many films over such a short period of time. But, you know, the thing is that the industry is always changing. And so what I realized is that, you know, while people say that this is probably a buyer's market just now, it is. But, you know, that doesn't mean they're buying at the price you want to sell it for. So the whole idea is that, you know, we want to build up relationships and build up output deals to make sure that people's risks mitigated across multiple films. Because, you know, every so often, you know, I make a searching for Sugarman. And you know, and that, you know, I still get royalty checks in for my investors, you know, every month on that film. Another film, 10 by 10, completely different, a very terse thriller. It's the same, you know, the big checks keep coming in, and others, you know, we're still selling. You know, I actually just sold the balance of my slate that I hadn't sold Latin America on Friday. Actually made that sale, and when I tell the stories as an output deal in Latin America. So, you know, it's about incrementally understanding that the market's not interested in one film at a time. They're interested in working with filmmakers who make multiple films, for whom they can begin to understand the sort of films those are. And as is happening right now, people are coming to me and saying, do you have anything for my territory or multiple territories? So those are the main reasons to risk mitigate for people's investment, but also that's the economy of film that we're living in just now.
Right. So we'll do, Josh, do we have a question or two from the group, and we'll wrap up?
Yeah, I think we can get this one out pretty quick. It's a pertinent question from Twig here. So besides face-to-face and hiring the sharing staff, what are some other means to reach out, whether hiring or looking for a gig? Any thoughts on that, Maggie, you might share?
Yeah, well, you know, those are obviously the best ones if you already know people in the industry. That's why so many people from Oxford and Cambridge in England are making movies, and people from my university aren't, you know, because they tend to have the kind of contacts. But what I would say is that it just takes a bit of what we call in Glasgow bottle, you know, and to understand that people love talking about themselves, as if I haven't proven that already this morning. But you know what I mean? People love to talk about themselves, and people are never, ever annoyed about being asked, may I come and watch you do this? Can I come and, you know, carry your handbag, you know, around about on production and so on and so forth. So I think the best thing is, you know, if you keep an eye on the trade newspapers, just, you know, go onto IMDb and look at all the things that are happening. It tells you where they're being shot and everything. And just reach out, and there's always a production office number on those. And just reach out and ask, what's the worst that can happen? They say no. You're not any worse off than before they said no. You still don't have your gig yet. But, you know, this is what I did. I was working for Lucasfilm, and I realized that I wanted to keep continuing working on films that gave me joy, the way Star Wars did. And I asked Lucasfilm and all the owners and famous people associated with it, do you mind when I'm traveling around the world if I just went and met some of these people to do an independent film? And they said, no, but knock yourself out. I couldn't get a single appointment. So then I said to them, you know, do you mind if I mention I work at Lucasfilm? You know, so that there's something in what you know and who you know already, that when you drop that people will say, oh, that's interesting, because you've no idea what problem they're trying to solve, you know. And there's always something you can give, you know, in return for their kindness in return. So it's just about making sure that you get to the places that those people are and just write to them. I receive hundreds of emails every week, you know, from people wanting to do things. And I always reply to everyone. I do it once a month. I sit down and reply to everyone and try and point them in some kind of direction to help them. But that's what I would do. I would just look and see what's happening close by. You know, go down to your local news TV station, you know, and ask if, you know, you can come in and sit in on something or whatever. You know, just make yourself present, you know, where the opportunities are going to happen, and you'll learn something and you'll probably get the gig.
Awesome. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody that joins on Zoom, because we love having someone to talk to. And I know it's easy to flip on Facebook and just watch live, but I really I appreciate you guys too, but really love being able to see smiling faces every week. So thank you. And I think, Jennifer, you're going to get the award for the most attended so far. So we appreciate that big time. So Jill, you want to close us out?
Yeah. So, you know, a thought starter, if you will. So, real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but having new eyes. Marcel Post wrote that, and I think it's pretty insightful for as we keep digging around these days. And you know, dedication is always to all the first responders, all the people that are keeping this planet going right now. And yeah, I'll give you a quick update on son John. He was about to become a Navy SEAL, and they had to cancel jump school for 2 weeks because of the COVID, but he's right on the cusp, man. That'll be pretty cool for the Driscoll family for sure. And I just want to tell you, so thankful for everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. And as always.
Wait, we got to thank your sister for joining Zoom today. And Marshall, everybody, is Dill's sister. You can see her.
Yeah.
All right, now we'll go. Hip, hip, hooray!
Hey! Hooray!
Keep digging. Can't wait to see you till next week.
Bye.
Bye
All
for
right,
now.
see you guys.